What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and I think I may have found something here with a couple articles with something that Marie Tran has said, in addition to what Chris Terrio has said about Rose and why her parts were cut. And I wanted to talk about that and why maybe, just maybe, it might show some validity on these leaks. Now, if you don't know the leaks we're talking about, I am talking about the ones about the production with the Rise of Skywalker, why people are talking about release the JJ cut, release the Abrams cut, all of that. Now, let me go down to the part that I'm talking about. And just because of this doesn't mean that these leaks are true. This doesn't mean that all these leaks are true. All it means is that there's some information here that seems to be accurate. Now, with all this stuff in here, right here, the late November cut, the last cut JJ approved of, had scenes with Rose and Rey still. JJ wanted to give her a more meaningful arc. Disney felt it was too risky. My source mentioned that Chris Terrio said it was because of the Leia scenes, but this is only partially true, because she had 4 other scenes, including 2 with Rey/Daisy, that Leia was not in. Now, just remember that for when we read what we're about to read. So, like the source says, Chris Terrio is out there doing damage control, basically saying that, well, the reason Rose wasn't in it so much was because all her scenes were with Leia and the VFX team. And then he does another walk back. So I'll bring you up to speed on that. Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker writer Chris Terrio says they weren't trying to sideline Rose Tico. A certain faction of Star Wars fans was not happy with the barely there inclusion of Marie Tran's scrappy resistance fighter Rose Tico in The Rise of Skywalker, which is currently in theaters and being picked apart and obsessed over by critics and fans alike. Even Crazy Rich Asians director John Chu called for a Disney Plus spin-off devoted to Rose. Jesus. Let's just stop. Talks about how Rose is only in The Rise of Skywalker for 1 minute and 16 seconds. Wow, that is crazy. Fans have even pointed out that Rose Tico's sister has more screen time in The Last Jedi. Oh my god, that's pretty crazy. This is what Terrio says. Well, first of all, JJ and I adore Marie Tran. One of the reasons that Rose has a few less scenes than we would like her to have is the difficulty of using Carrie Fisher's footage in the way we wanted. We wanted Rose to be the anchor at the Rebel base who is with Leia. We thought we couldn't leave Leia at the base without any of the principals who we love, so Leia and Rose were working together. As the process evolved, a few scenes we'd written with Rose and Leia turned out not to meet the standard of photorealism that we hoped for. Those scenes unfortunately fell out of the film, talking about scenes between Rose and Leia. The last thing we were doing was deliberately trying to sideline Rose. We adore the character, we adore Kelly, so much we anchored her with our favorite person in this galaxy, General Leia. Echoing support for the fan favorite character of Rose. Now, when you look at this, what he had to say after, right? Star Wars Rise of Skywalker clarifies comments about Rose and Leia's cut scene, because he basically said, well, we couldn't do it because of the VFX. It's basically what he said about Rose and Leia. Now, here's what he says. I badly misspoke if an earlier statement I implied that any of our cutscenes between Rose and Leia were the fault of our VFX team and the wizards at ILM. In an earlier interview, I was referring to a specific scene in which Leia's emotional state in Episode 7 did not seem to match the scene we wrote for use in Episode 9, so it was cut at the script stage before VFX work was done. If we had chosen to use the scene, ILM would have made it look perfect. They always do. So he had to come out and clarify the statement because what he said wasn't entirely accurate, and everyone started attributing the problems to the VFX team, which evidently was not the case. Now, the important thing, and where I saw this, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That reminds me of these leaks, is something that Marie Tran just said. This was written on the 2nd. This was written last night, this article. Marie Tran just undercut the Star Wars writer's excuse for reducing her role. And it says here, Tran discusses shooting a scene that didn't rely on Leia's presence. Marie Tran, the Vietnamese actress who is on the removing end of a racist and sexist backlash. Oh my gosh, please stop this crap, you stupid idiots. Never happened. Check out Ichibaka's detailing video about the Marie Tran Instagram harassment. And maybe that will solve your issues, Matthew Rosa. The actress addressed yet another meaty scene she had shot that had been cut from the film. She's talking about, yeah, it was probably one of the biggest sets I've ever been on, Tran told Hollywood Reporter about the Battle of Exegol. It was incredible to see what the stunt teams did. It was also insane to be running across the platform, which I know you only see for a second in the movie, but we shot it so many times. I remember having bruises on my knees the next day because we kept running, then we'd fall onto our knees and do some more shooting stuff. I don't think that's in the movie. It was definitely organized chaos as stormtroopers were flying. People on horses is pretty insane. So she's talking about how the Battle of Exegol portion that she was a part of, they only used basically a second of footage from everything that they had actually done. Whatever, not a big deal. Now, here we go. This is not the first time Tran alluded to a scene involving Rose Tico that was filmed for Rise of Skywalker but not make the ultimate cut. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly in November, Tran alluded to scenes that she supposedly shared with this trilogy's new Jedi Knight Rey, even though none of their scenes together made the final cut. I think it's really cool. Here comes Tran. I think it's really cool at all that there are even scenes together, because in The Last Jedi we weren't in any scenes together. It was really cool to have feminine energy on set. I wish I could tell you more, but I'm really excited for people to see Rose and Rey interact. They both have the same objective, which is to fight for the things you believe in and the people you love. Neither of these scenes involving Rose's interaction with Leia, which undercuts a recent claim made by Chris Terrio, who co-wrote the screenplay, in which he argued that part of the reason her role had been reduced because it was difficult to attain photorealism in the scenes where Rose would interact with the late Carrie Fisher as General Leia. And then it talks about how all the things I just said with Chris Terrio's, when I went to those other articles, what Chris Terrio said about this. Now, so again, could this leak have just put a bunch of pieces together and put this out for bait? Yeah, that is definitely possible. But I didn't even remember that article back from November. And that makes sense, right? Kelly Marie Tran is saying back in November that there's scenes that she's really excited for people to see with her and Rey. And then look, the late November cut had scenes with Rose and Rey still. JJ wanted to give her a more meaningful arc. Disney felt that was too risky. My source mentioned Chris Terrio said it's because of Leia's scenes, but that's only partially true, because she had 4 other scenes, including 2 with Rey Daisy that Leia was not in. That definitely seems to line up with what Kelly Marie Tran is saying when she's detailing these other scenes she shot, when she's talking about the scene she shot with Rey. And one of these scenes happened one of these interviews happened very recently, where she revealed that scene from the Exegol part. So that doesn't mean this is true. That doesn't mean any of that. But I do think maybe it lends a little more validity to it, or at least the fact that maybe if this person is a complete troll, they're really doing their research and making sure it's an incredibly good troll. But I thought that was interesting. I thought it was something I wanted to present, talk about that Rose Tico thing, because Chris Terrio is out here doing a lot of damage control. He's talking a lot, and he's having to backpedal with some things that he's saying. And it's very interesting to line it up with the leaks, if it makes sense at all. But we'll see, I suppose. I think as time goes on, we are going to learn more and more about the behind-the-scenes workings of all of this stuff. And you're going to have more and more people talking as sides begin to form. There is clearly right now a JJ side and a Lucasfilm side that are kind of, just lobbing little attacks back and forth. Will this continue? Will it all fade out as the public forgets about The Rise of Skywalker because it's not a memorable movie? And this is not a memorable trilogy, in fact, other than the fact that for a lot of people, it ruined all their interest in Star Wars. But when you actually look at the movies, 10 years from now, people aren't going to be talking about this the same way they talk about the prequels or the original trilogy. It's just going to fade into nothingness. And hopefully, that's what Lucasfilm lets it do. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the leaks and how that does seem to line up, actually, with what something Kelly Marie Tran said back in November and just recently said. Because it sure seems to me, but that doesn't mean the leaks are true. But I just wanted to get that out there, because the more you know, the more you can judge for yourself whether you believe these leaks. I personally, I do kind of believe them, although I do definitely think it is coming from a side that wants to damage control for JJ. With that being said, it definitely has a narrative. That doesn't mean that it's untrue. It's just, I think it's presented from a certain point of view to do damage control for JJ Abrams. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video out there, turn notifications on, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone. And a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.